Welcome to another video on Tableau. Today we're going to be talking about dashboards. Now, a dashboard is a way in Tableau that we can put multiple graphs on the same workspace. And in fact, we're going to set this up so that we can actually interact with a graph up here and have it affect the graph down here. So today what we're going to do is we're going to graph the number of COVID cases per county over particular days, and we're going to graph the number of COVID cases in individual counties across the United States. And then down here, we're going to look at the number of COVID cases over time. And not only that, we're going to be able to have what I do in this graph affect this graph and vice versa. So let's talk about how to do this within Tableau. So first off, I've got the data set already joined in, and I've got county and state information as well as the cumulative number of cases within a county and the new cases for the particular week of the pandemic. This week is 62, week number 62, and this is March 13th, 2021 in Scott, Missouri. So let's go and see if we can make this graph in Tableau. So to begin with, let's start with the map. We'll go and grab our state information, plop it onto the main field, and notice that this gives us our state information. As usual, we can go to the state and hit the little plus and grab the county information as well. I will recenter the United States. Now, no offense to Alaska and Hawaii, but this is going to look a little bit better centered on the contiguous United States. So we've got our counties, but what we need now to do is to grab our new cases and plop it into the color aspect right here. And now what we've got is we've got the United States, and each county is color coded by the number of cases that they've had cumulative over the pandemic. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to show this per date. And in order to do that, we want this filter box to have some sort of date parameter where the user can interact with that date. So in order to do that, we need to actually create a date parameter that the user messes with. So we go over to date, we right click, we go down to create, and we're going to create a parameter. And all of this is good. So I'm just going to click OK. So this has made a little date parameter down here. I'm going to right click on this as well and show this parameter. And what this is going to do is this is going to add a little button over here that allows the user, in this case me, to manipulate what date we're looking at. I'm going to go down here and also say that I want to be able to do this as a slider instead of having to pick from the list, because I think the slider is a little bit nicer. Now, right now, this parameter doesn't do anything. It allows us to set what it is, but nothing happens in response. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this filter, and I want to filter my data set on whatever date has been selected in the date parameter. So we'll go into the date, we'll drag it over to the filter, and I want to filter on individual dates as opposed to a range because I just want to show for a particular date what's going on. Click next. And now what's happening is we can do a couple of different things. If I just cared about fixing the date, I would just fix the date right here. But what I want is I want to set the filter so that the date selected is actually set up to this date parameter that I've defined over here. So we'll go to the condition and by formula. And here we just want to set up the fact that the date column is equal to the date parameter that the user has chosen. We click OK. And now I can happily move through the pandemic and watch what happens. But the thing that I don't like is the fact that this bit up here keeps changing, right? The upper level is changing by whatever the maximum number of new cases in a county was per day. So I'm going to go modify this. So we'll go and we'll edit the legend, and I'm going to go over to the advanced bit here, and I'm going to start this thing out at 0, and we're going to end this thing. Now I could pick the maximum number here, but ultimately I think that we're going to be better served by picking sort of a smaller upper bound. And this is just due to the fact that I've played around with this data enough to know that this is actually going to look relatively well. This requires some fiddling to get right, but we're going to go with this 0 to 1,000. And now we're going to be able to step through and see what happens over time. So that's pretty nice. All right, I like that. So this is a really good map of the COVID cases. Now I'm going to go down and label this the COVID cases map or cases map. And notice that the title has changed to match that. So maybe we ought to specify that this is the COVID-19 case map. All right, next what I wanted to do was I wanted to make a line chart that looked like this, that shows the total number of new cases, and so that we can see the surge happen at sort of these 3 waves. So let's go and make that graph. So in order to do that, we need another plot, and we're going to add time on my x-axis. We're going to add the new cases on my y-axis. And unfortunately, whenever I add a year or add a date, it obnoxiously goes into year. And we need to go down and select the fact that we want to show the exact dates here. So this gives us our surge across time. Fabulous. Let's go ahead and give the title or the sheet a name. So this is COVID-19 time series. But one thing that I would like to do is I would like this date parameter to show up as a line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click my axis, and I'm going to go and add a reference line. And one of the things that I can do is I can give it a particular value in here. And one of the things that happens is the parameters are listed down here. So if you've got a parameter defined, you can do that. And that gives us the fact that our current date parameter is right here at the end of the last spike. So this works out relatively well. So now I've got my 2 graphs, and I now want to put them together onto a dashboard. So we'll go over here and create a new dashboard. And notice that I've got these 2 sheets already. So I can take these 2 sheets and just plop them over here, and I can arrange them however I like. And notice that now we sort of have the map and the and I'm trying to resize these is what's going on. There we go. So now we have the map on top, and we have the time series on the bottom. And notice that we can now interact with our date parameter, and notice that this date parameter is now interacting with both of my graphs. It's showing both the movement across time on the time series and in the map. So this is great. But the thing that I want to be able to do next is I want to be able to select a particular county and have that county information show up here, or maybe a range of counties and have those counties selected pop up here. So in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go and use this button right here, which is a filter button. And this is going to say, whatever's going on in here, use that as a filter for the other pieces of the dashboard. And now we can pick individual counties and see what happens in those counties. So that's pretty powerful. The next thing that I want to do is I want to consider the case where maybe I have 2 different dashboards, and I want to be able to smoothly move between those 2 dashboards. So perhaps in this case, we've got our cases time series. So let's go ahead and modify that so that this is the cases time series. And perhaps we do this exact same thing, but instead of looking at the number of cases, maybe we look at the rate per 10,000 or 100,000 or something like that. And I want to be able to smoothly move between those two dashboards. So let's look at the navigation. So first, let's copy this dashboard, or duplicate it, excuse me. And we've got a dashboard number 2. And just to make things different, I'm going to go ahead and move this thing up. So we're gonna, all right, so all we've done is switch. So I now have a second dashboard and we've just moved them around. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start with dashboard number 1 and I'm gonna double click this navigation button. And it sort of obnoxiously gives me a really big button, and we will make this a little bit smaller. And put it at the top. Fabulous. So resize it so it's a small little bar. And now I've got a relatively nice little navigation button. So what I can do with this now is we're going to go in and edit this button, and I'm going to change this to move to dashboard 2. And click OK. And now notice that what we're going to do is I've got the title set up, and now this says navigate to dashboard number 2. And now when I click on this, it'll actually bring us to dashboard number 2. So I'm going to alt click to do that. And now we're in dashboard number 2. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's make a little navigation thing. I'm going to move this around by getting the little double crosshairs. There we go. I got the double crosshairs. And we'll make this a little bit smaller. We've got the navigation button. We're going to go and edit it, and we're going to send us back to dashboard number 1 and change the title to go to dashboard 1. Fabulous. And so now what I can do is I've got a way of moving smoothly between my dashboards. Now this is going to be nice when what you want to do is you want to have two different dashboards when maybe the response variable changes between total number of cases and the rate and the death. And so that you've got an ability to sort of move smoothly between different dashboards where you have them set up. So that is, in a nutshell, how to deal with dashboards. Now, one thing that I do want to talk about is that one of the things that we want to be able to do is we want to be able to save this workbook and give it to someone else so that they can either work on it or they can give a presentation. And if you just save the workbook, that's one thing, but a packaged workbook includes both the data set and the workbook. And so you don't have to worry about if the data is up to date or if you pass it around or anything like that. So when you send me a workbook that you want me to look at, send a packaged workbook. That saves a lot of pain. The downside though is if the data gets refreshed, you have to manually refresh the data and refresh the workbook because the packaged workbook isn't connected to the original data. Anyway, I hope that is insightful and helpful, and have a good rest of your day.